Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Arizona Dreams. We're going to compare Houston, Texas and Phoenix, Arizona. Why? Because I've lived in both places and because you viewers have asked me which one do I like better, why do I like them better. So jumping right in, let's talk about the two cities. It's about which one did I like better and why did I like it better. So I'm going to go through some categories for you and kind of break down which ones I think had the edge and why I think they have the edge. Jumping right into weather. That's the most obvious thing that we can talk about. Weather. Phoenix definitely does not have the humidity issues that Houston does. So when you look at weather, at least in my eyes, you have to look at unbearable heat for 5 months. Because in May it starts to get hot and it lasts usually through August, September, maybe a little bit longer. Personally, I don't find that unbearable until we get into June and really into August. June through August for me is the kind of ridiculous hot. So for me it's 3 months, but know that it's hot for 5 months if you're looking at the stats. In Houston, they get a hot summer. They can get up to 100 and sometimes break the 100 mark, but it is ridiculously humid. I would say that it is a high humidity there probably 3/4 of the year. And what does that bring? That brings moisture, and that brings a lot of rain and a lot of thunderstorms. So 3/4 of the year, you're looking at ridiculous moisture in the air, which makes you sweat more. Do you sweat in Houston or in Phoenix? Yeah, of course you do. But it's different. You can stand in the heat for a little bit longer and not really feel that. I can tell you from personal experience, I would be out on my lawn getting ready to mow, not actually mowing, 70 degrees, talking like November, October, somewhere in there, and I would be sweating without even pushing the mower because of the humidity. So for me, the weather, because Phoenix also has a great winter. In the wintertime here, we get 70s, 60s, and 50s, maybe the random, very low chance of 40s. But for me, that's the great time of the year. That's when Phoenix really comes alive. So for me, Phoenix wins on the weather. Let's talk about that population and how crowded both of them are. They're both pretty big, and they're in the top 10. I think Houston is right above Phoenix, but check those stats because it does change, and both of them are growing constantly. So as far as the population goes, to me, Houston felt more crowded, and I can say that because of some of the other things that were happening. Trying to get into places, just the simple amount of traffic that shows up. Traffic exists in both places, don't get me wrong, but here traffic patterns are pretty predictable. You've got the HOV lanes telling you that rush hour is going to be from 6 to 9 a.m. and from 3 to 7 p.m. And it actually is pretty solid. Now it may bleed a little before that and it may bleed over a little after those time frames, but the traffic rush hour and the jams and whatever, they're going to hit right in those times. So if you're outside of those times, traffic moves pretty smoothly. I honestly can tell you, I don't remember getting stuck at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night on a Friday night in Phoenix. Can I say the same about Houston? No. There is no rhyme, no reason to when traffic is going to hit in Houston. I was going to a corporate party, a business party, 8 o'clock on a Friday night. And I remember going down to try to get to this Christmas party, about 25 miles or so to the party, and getting stuck in standstill rush hour-like traffic at 8 o'clock on a Friday night. To me, that was insane. It took me to go 25 miles. It took me almost an hour and a half to do it. I worked in Houston about 29 miles from the last contract that I worked there. And to do that drive on a good day would take me an hour and a half, hour 15, hour and a half. Not too bad because it's rush hour. That's actually kind of normal for bigger cities. But on a bad day, it could easily get over 3 hours. Now that to me was insane. And that was one of the main reasons that we left that and not being able to get into places. Here, I have right now currently about a 12 to 15 mile commute. On a bad day, it's 45 minutes. I've never had to go over 45 minutes. So the edge for traffic, Phoenix. They're handling it better. Talking about getting access to activities and places to go and things to see. Both have great zoos. We've been to the Phoenix Zoo several times. We've never been to the Houston Zoo. Why? Not because we didn't try. We absolutely tried to get into the Houston Zoo. Houston Zoo shares a parking lot with Sam Houston Park. It's a very big park. And unfortunately, it gets packed quickly. And it's really hard to get into the zoo. So I think we tried a total of 3 times to get into the zoo. and never could find parking, so we never went in. Now there are other ways to get into there, so before you start saying, well, you did it wrong, we just didn't want to deal with trying to park someplace else and get a ride in. So for me, getting into the attractions, it's easier to do here. And that's partially because of the way that the two cities have grown. Phoenix is urban sprawl. So everything is just kind of, there is no real downtown, even though there is a downtown Phoenix. In Houston, there's actually what feels like 4 or 5 downtowns. Because of the way the community grows, everything packs in, and then the energy team decides, oh, we're going to go over here, and then all of a sudden that booms up and becomes more like a downtown. So you'll see that in Houston. So for me, again, I think the advantage kind of goes to Phoenix for being able to get around. If you want to talk about downtown feel, Houston has a more of a downtown feel and a more of a downtown vibe. And because of that, Houston has more of a Houston flair, right? Phoenix is a transplant city for a lot. It's hard to find natives around here that are born and raised in Arizona. So if you want to talk about feel and vibe, Houston gets the edge. I think that they have more flavor. They have more Houston style. Let's talk about economy. And when I'm comparing economy, I'm going to talk about first the stability and how I think both of the economies are doing, and then I'm going to talk about the housing side of the economy. Here in Phoenix, the economy is pretty stable right now. The big drivers here, there's a lot of call center, there's a little bit of tech. It's considered a medium-sized market for tech, whereas Houston is considered an enterprise market for tech. There's some good medical here, but Houston has the edge on the medical. And there's some higher education. ASU is right here in the heart, and Grand Canyon University are right here in the valley. Now there's other, Maricopa Community College, blah, blah, blah. In Houston, there is the University of Houston, Texas A&M, and there's another Texas university that I can't think of right now that are considered Houston-based, even though Texas A&M isn't actually in Houston. So as far as just the diversity of economy, I'm going to give the edge to Houston. Stability of economy, I'm going to give the edge to Houston. Why? Because they have higher education, they have medical and research, and they also have oil and gas. I just told you here, we kind of have a light tech environment. We have some finance, a lot of the retail and restaurant businesses here, and a lot of call center. We do have HP, we do have some microchip fabricators, we have Apple offices and some Microsoft and things like that, but the core of the economy still seems to drive around the stuff that I said. So when you're in Houston and the economy's suffering because the oil and gas are tanking, guess what happens? People go and get education, so those universities start to pick up a little bit. Medical, you have an international children's hospital that is internationally recognized in Houston. You have an international cancer center in there. There's an obesity center. There's a guy that's on a TV show that's based out of there. I think it's 600 Pound Life. So you've got a lot of medical that is internationally acclaimed and known for it. So because of all those things, when things are going up and down, something else is holding the economy. Here we don't have that quite same stability. Right now, they're both about equal. They're both doing really well. But I'm going to give the edge to stability to Houston because of that diversity of market, and that's a strong diversity of market. How does that affect housing? Housing cost in both places is expensive in comparison to some of the other areas of the country, and that's simply because there's so many people coming in. But right now, both of them, housing costs are a little higher than the national average. As far as rentals go, I want to say that it's probably about the same. It might be a little more expensive in Houston. Cost of houses are a little more expensive in Houston, but you get more in Houston, at least for the purchase, than you do here. The lots here are small. They tend to stack them and pack them. In Houston, you can still find yourself some good property. So I'd say if I have to give an edge, I'm going to give it to Houston. At the same token, I'm going to take away from Houston because their zoning is just wonky. That's a technical term. By that, I mean that literally you could have a church and then maybe a liquor store, and then a business, and then some homes. Because there's a lot of areas of Houston. Now, it's not across the board, so don't light me up for this one. But there are a lot of areas of Houston where the zoning is not restricted. You can literally do commercial, light industrial, residential, and no rhyme or reason to who your neighbor is going to be. So for me, because the zoning here is pretty well thought out, the entire state's gridded. The neighborhoods are usually planned out beforehand, and they kind of shut off the neighborhoods from the grid, but the major crosses are always gridded. To me, that just gives Phoenix an edge as far as livability goes. So attractions. I'm going to say that Houston has more attractions in Houston. There's a great diversity. It's an international community, so there's all kinds of restaurants. If you like Ethiopian food, soul food, Mexican food, and of course barbecue, you're in Texas. You can get steaks probably cheaper there than most of the places in the country. So the diversity in restaurants definitely favors Houston. Attractions around Phoenix are pretty amazing. You can get to Las Vegas. You can get to San Diego, LA, Mexico, Flagstaff, the Grand Canyon. You want water, you can get to water. You want mountains, you can get to mountains. You want the desert, you got the desert. If you're willing to drive a couple hours, you can do just about anything and enjoy it. Yes, I know that Austin is there. I know Dallas is there. I know San Antonio is there. The Riverwalk is awesome. It's easier to do, and to me, it feels like there's more opportunity. There's plenty of fishing. There's plenty of hunting opportunities here. There's plenty of fishing and hunting opportunities there. But for me, Phoenix wins on that. Let's talk about going back for a second and that weather pattern. I mentioned that it rains a lot in Houston. One of the things that I didn't mention is floods. It doesn't flood that often here in the valley. We do get run water, especially in the monsoon season, but that's not as common as it seems to me that Houston floods. I can tell you when I was in Houston, my backyard would flood at least once a week, it felt like. And now I'm not talking about water damage and everything. I'm talking about, we'd get sitting water like that in the backyard, and sometimes it would be higher. And I know that the day we moved and they got hit with a huge storm that was pushing cars on I-45, the owner of the property told me that they had water damage. They had to sustain some pretty severe water damage. So for me, the weather and that aspect of the flooding and the rain, it's better here. I think if we're keeping track, you can tell where my heart lies. My heart lies here with Phoenix Valley. No knock against Houston as far as those Houstonians and people that have love for Texas and all that. It's just my personal opinion that Houston just didn't thrill me the way that Phoenix does because of that humidity, the moisture, the rain, and the inability to get out and do things that you really want to do with the traffic and just the congestion. You really got to be willing to spend some time in a car. Here it's not as bad, and for that reason, Phoenix gets my thumbs up. I hope you enjoyed the video. You know the drill. Subscribe, share, like, comments down below. Ring the bell for the alerts. Check back for the next video, and take care.